All right, so we're returning to the speech that the Lubavitcher Rebbe gave in 1992, which this is shortly before he had a stroke. He had a stroke in what's called Adar Beit, the second Adar, right near the end. And that rendered him unable to speak. So these are really very important speeches and essays that are given. So what do we say? That by means of the Jews back then, their self-sacrifices, that changed the whole heavens. And first of all, given when the Jews received the Torah, is that automatically made every Jew holy, gold. Rebbe explained that. And then when the Jewish people accepted the Torah, which was 1,000 years later on Purim, namely that they got the point of the Torah, which is this idea of self-sacrifice, as then it changed the whole entire month, the month of Adar. It changed the whole month. The whole entire month, it says that the mazal of that month is healthy. Okay, so the Rebbe says, because everything in the world is connected to everything else, God is creating everything with tremendous precision and synchronization. What about that word? Everything is synchronized with everything else. So according to this, now we can understand this connection of the month of Adar, which is this month, to Parsha Truma, which is this week's Torah portion. This week's Torah portion speaks about the gifts that were given in the temple to the tabernacle. Benidvas asiyas a mishkan boli de bitoy begiloy, that a Jew, according to who he is, kama v'kama kamoke sim, is also the same thing in the lower worlds. You remember we said this before, we learned this before also. How can it be, the Rebbe asked the question, how can it be that the tabernacle was built by with gifts from simple people? Simple people, even children, even babies, it says. So it says the answer is because that every Jew is gold, every Jew is holy. At Mount Sinai, that's okay. And now we get to the big purpose of the Jewish people, to make this temple, holy temple, into the world, which eventually is supposed to be the example for the whole entire world, is supposed to be holy. Okay, so the idea of bringing gifts to the tabernacle, the power which was received at Mount Sinai, that every Jew is holy and everything he does is holy, that a Jew, according to how he is above in the upper world, so the same thing is also, right? The Jews are the sons of God, they're the chosen ones of God. That's the same way they should be also in this physical world. Shemetziuto, that his existence, and also the world, nechasim, ba'olam bo nechasim tovsim makom, and even in the physical world where your possessions take up a place, your possessions are, what do you say? They take up they take up space in your life. Who bedreges zahav, a Jew, even when he's in the physical world, he's in this level of gold, which gold is zeh, the initials, zeh anoten bari, a person who gives of himself when he's healthy. In other words, he's got no influence from outside. Nothing is forcing him to give money. He's not, doesn't need it for a blessing or for something. He just gives even though when he's healthy. That's every Jew. Who notenet koach, this gives the power that in this whole month of Adar, Bomis Taimim, when the month of Adar, that's when they finished the Mishkan. And afterwards it was the 7 days of Miluyim in the month of Adar, Kaf Gimel Adar until Rosh Chodesh Nisan, Buri Mazlo. That will be healthy, the Mazlo will be healthy. Okay, what's going on over here? When the Jews were in the desert, so they got out of Egypt in the month of Nisan, right? And then they received the Torah in the month of Sivan. But really, they didn't receive it. And Sivan broke the tablets. And then it came to Yom Kippur. Yom Kippur. That was when they received the second tablets. And then God commanded them to make a tabernacle. They made this tabernacle, they gathered everything together, and they basically finished. It opened up. It was the grand opening of this tabernacle was on the first day of Nisan, almost a year after they got out of Egypt, 2 weeks short of getting out of Egypt. The Nisan. Before that first day, it opened up, the first day of Nisan. What's the month before Nisan? Adar. So before that first day, they had 7 days of inauguration. 7 days of inauguration. It's called Yemei HaMiluim. 7 days of inauguration. And then that was from the 27th day of Adar until the first day of Nisan. On the first day of Nisan, that's when it opened up. That's when the first of the 12 tribes, which was Nachshon ben Aminadav, of the tribe of Yehuda, he brought his offering, 12 offerings. It's in Parshas, you can look up Parshas, how can it be? Sometimes my memory just goes away from Parshas Nasai, right? Right before Parshas Balotcha is, one second, give me a second. Yeah, that's right. Right in the end of Parshas Nasai, Parshas Balotcha, right before that. So it says that there's the 12 days that the offerings were brought. 12 days. That first day, by the way, was the day that Nadav and Avihu also went in, and they were burned up. They died. It's a tragic day too. Okay, that's a parenthetical statement. So it ends up that on the month of Adar, the tabernacle was really already had been finished. They were just bringing 7 inaugurational days to inaugurate the Kohanim and to make everything holy, to sanctify everything. 7 days. So it ends up that the end days of Adar, those were really the days when the tabernacle, they put the finishing touches, if you want to call it, on the tabernacle. Therefore, this month is when the tabernacle was made in Adar. Therefore, the month is another reason that the mazal, that your luck or your spiritual, how do you say, your spiritual prognosis in this month is very good. Shagam kafishu kashurim dargat mazal, that even when it's in this thing of mazal, the stars, it also is bri, it's also healthy. Zan otain bri, that's gold. So what are we saying? That because the Jewish people had self-sacrifice in the month of Adar, and way before that, what this is like almost 1,000 years before that, when the Torah was given, that's when the tabernacle was practically finished in that month. So therefore, the month of Adar is a lucky, a healthy, a blessed month for the Jewish people. V'yesh lomar, we can say, Shazui, that this is also the connection to the fact Adar, that when Adar came in, we have to be happy. Shabbat, that the Gemara continues that with the thing of that on Adar, that our luck is good. The mazal is good. Hasimcha hachi gadol, the greatest happiness sheyochel yosef Yehudi. What's the greatest happiness that can be by a Jew? Kasher hu yodea, when he knows. Shebakol matzav, that no matter where he is, no matter what situation he's found in, afilu lamata lamata, even if he's the lowest of the low, God forbid, in the world, shebechitzoni is nira kehelam ve'ester, like it was in the time of Purim, that the Jews were facing total extermination. Alalakus, who kashur, nevertheless, a Jew is always attached to God. Shechen afilu kafisha nimsa lamata, even when he's found below, neshama baguf, a soul and a body, who ben yachid, he is the only son of the Melech Malchim Lachim, of God, the King of Kings, the Creator, the Holy One, blessed be He. That God, Omar Sharishon Nechasim Shel Yehudi, the first thing a Jew has to know, that his main possession is gold. What does it mean, gold? Hayinu Shagam Ba'olam, in this physical world, that he has physical possessions, and physical possessions by him take up his consciousness. Nevertheless, you should know that every Jew is rich. How spiritually and physically. According to this, now we can understand. Now, how can that be? I mean, here we see that there's Jews that were terrible. What about, tell this to the Jews that were in the concentration camps? The Jews that were the in the worst possible situations. There were gassed. There were Jews were exterminated and they were expelled from all these countries. Right? We have since the time of Abraham, we've got 4,000 years of all sorts of troubles we made for ourselves and wars and all these religions are against us and the people are against us, against Judaism, against, right? What are we supposed to do in the situation? What are we supposed to do? Situation is just realize who we are. Just realize who you are. It's not our thing to go and take revenge from all these people and being bitter all the time. But look what we have suffered on your hands. And no, forget about all that stuff. All that is just taking your mind off of who you really are. Says the Rebbe, every Jew is gold. And our job is to convince the whole world that they're gold. The same God that's creating the Jews is creating everybody else, but we're supposed to be the teachers. Mamlechet Kohanim. We're supposed to be the holy nation to show everybody that everybody's holy. The whole world will be holy. The world will be filled with God, the knowledge of godliness. But until then, if the Jews don't get it right, so they're the plug that's plugging up this whole business. According to this, but the fact is that the Jews, every Jew, no matter where he is, no matter how confused he is, and how off there, nevertheless, every Jew is gold. Every Jew is the only son of God. Well, according to this, Movenis is even understood more what the Gemara says, Mishenichtas Adar, when Adar comes in, you have to be happy. Mishenichtas Av, and when Av comes in, you have to be less happy. Key, because the novelty is that even when you were in Av, the lowest of the lows, when the temple was destroyed, and it's even a commandment to minimize your happiness, nevertheless, a person has the power of Adar to transform this. When you're in Av, you should always remember that just as you're sad in Av, you should be happy, you'll be happy. You have the power to transform the sadness and the negativity and the darkness of the month of Av into happiness. Kanishka, like we said before. When a Jew thinks about this, it brings him to tremendous happiness and great. Simcha said this joy, it'll fix his physical life. That he's in this physical world. And he'll live according to nature in the world, but he'll change nature. That's what happiness does. The nature of happiness is that it permeates a person totally. When a person is happy, then his life becomes happy. Simcha shepoelis al kol ma'asav, it causes all of his deeds. Al davar shabo ito b'maga, and everything that he touches. V'hu mesameach gam acher, and he makes other people happy also. V'simcha zu, and this happiness, machnisa yoter hatzlacha, it brings more joy and everything that he does, like we can see clearly. There's a long story. It's a very beautiful story, but I think I even told this story before. If I'm not mistaken, it was Rabbi Shmuel Gorevich. I'm not mistaken. Please correct me if I'm wrong, but he became a shliach, an emissary of the Rebbe in France. And it came out there was a big, whatever it is, a financial problems, and he had big problems, and they were about to close his institutions. They didn't meet the proper requirements or whatever, and he had big debts, and he didn't know what to do. Before he went to France, he didn't especially want to go, but nevertheless his wife did, and so we're talking about this is long ago. Anyway, the Rebbe told him one very important thing: when you go to France, you always have to have a happy face, because the French love a happy face, right? Pani mi'irot, whatever the language was, the French people love a person with a happy disposition, right? They like. Anyway, so he got in this situation. Things got worse and worse and worse. This is like 10 years after the Rebbe gave him this advice. 10 years, and he had to see this one big official that everything depended on it, and the official wasn't there. And the day that the foreclosure was going to be like in another week, and this official that was his only hope was only going to come back in a month, and nobody knew where he was. So he was really despondent. He didn't know what to do. And somehow or other, someone suggested or whatever that he should go to this other minister. This other minister was not known to be a particularly person-loving, how do you say, a Hebrew file? What do they call it? A person that loved Jews. Anybody went in there, suddenly remember what the Rebbe said, and he went in with a smiling face, and he went in, and this person said, the end of the conversation was, he said, I know a lot of religious people, and none of them are happy. He said, you have a happy face. He said exactly the language of the Rebbe. You have a happy face. I love people, French people love people with happy faces, with happy, positive countenance or whatever it's called. I love. And he said, tell me what you want. And he gave him what he wanted. He gave him even more than what he wanted. A whole building. The details are there. But the point of the story is that the smile and the pleasantness and the joy, knowing that things could be better and that they will be better if he just participates, if he just makes them better, thinks positively about it. And so by means of this, by being happy, you make everyone around you happy. That's called a dwelling in a low place. You're in a place where everybody else is miserable. At least you put a little bit of light. Professor Viktor Frankl talks about when he was in the Holocaust, that he was in 4 different camps. He was there like 4 years. There's no logical way how anybody survived, he himself. Anyway, he said that there was always some person that went around and comforted everybody and gave his last piece of bread and talked to other people. It could have been in some of the cases he's talking about himself, because he also did that. But in any case, a little bit of light when everybody else is angry and you're pleasant. Everyone else is depressed and you're happy. Everyone else is whatever it is, vindictive, and you're learning merit. Everybody else, right? And people sometimes they'll say, shut up, keep quiet. What are you talking about? Right? And nevertheless, you show something positive in the situation, even against people's will, it changes the whole situation. In other words, in addition to the fact that by means of joy, that you become what's called Ben Olam Haba, that you become fitting, that is say, to go to heaven, like it says in the Gemara that Hanach Badchi Shesamechim and Masemchim Bnei Adam Bnei Ila Da'asid. It's a story that I think was Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi, that he went into the marketplace with Elijah the prophet, and Elijah the prophet would appear to him all the time, and he said, "Show me who are the people that are for sure going to go to heaven in the marketplace." And they were holy people, and there were 2 people that went around and they were making jokes. They made everybody laugh. They made jokes. They said stupid things. They did stupid things, whatever. They said good morning to everybody, and they were happy in this. And they made everybody around them happy. Said these people, they're going to go to heaven. Not only these people are deserving to go to heaven, Olam Haba, but also they make Olam Hazeh. They've improved this physical world here. They make this physical world true, which that's even more important than heaven. Because life in this physical world, this is really true life. This is really true joy and happy. One way, by the way, of being happy is by thinking that I'm just a creation. And every second that I'm alive, I'm really grateful to God that He's creating me. Every second is like brand new. So the past doesn't get you down so much, because the past was also a creation, but now is infinitely better, right? It's infinitely better. It's an additional life that I'm getting. So that makes you even more happy. And when you realize also who's creating me is God, and not only what am I being created for? I'm being created to make the world a better place. So you have a good word to say to people, and you have something pleasant, and you're a little more, open to give charity. Because the money really is not really my money. It's money that God gave me. And who is this me that I'm getting? Me, myself, I'm a gift. Not only is my money a gift to me, I myself am a gift. When a person thinks about this, then he thinks about, that's the secret of the month of Adar. In Yazeh, this is especially in the first day of Adar in this year, which it happens to be today. Biyomi Gimel Dalet. Right, yesterday was the last day of Shvat, which happens to be, that's Rosh Chodesh, the third day. It says in the Gemara, Gimel Dalet, the Adar falls on this year, and also that's what it was back then. What was it? 32 years ago, 31 years ago. That Rosh Chodesh fell on Tuesday and Wednesday, just like this year. Tuesday was the last day of Shvat, and Wednesday is the first day of Adar. Okay. It says in the Gemara that Gimel Dalet, what's Gimel Dalet? Gomel Dalim. Gimel is the third letter of the Hebrew alphabet. Dalet is the fourth letter, but they also have meaning. Gimel means to give. Dalim means to pour. Poor people. Dalut. Gimel Dalim means, excuse me, Gomel Dalim, to give to the poor. Hainu. Shafilu Kashinim saying, but much of the Dalim, even when a Jew is poor, like it wasn't Purim, that's not a play on words. It happened to come out that way. Nimshach Gamol. Maybe if you get drunk enough, you can make something out of it. Nimshach Gamul V'Hashpa Milamayla. Even when a Jew is low, Dalim, nevertheless it's Gomel, God gives to him. That Gimel v'Dalet. There is also Gimel and Dalet become together. That's God. The word God means luck. Ba God. Says Ba God means luck has come. Shapiro show, what does it mean? Mazal. Bari Mazli. And that it's a month that the Mazal is healthy. Ad until the open the Zav, until it's gold. Zen noten Bari. And there's no matter what situation you're in, no matter the lowest situation, that you should know that it's waiting for you good. And even more detail we can say, Shagam and the Gamul Dalin, also this idea of giving to the poor, this indicates on Elish of Bnei Israel. And this shows on the highness of the Jewish people that was given to them at Mount Sinai. Let's proceed by, first of all, what does it mean, Gamul Dalin? Giving to the poor. Now, there's another word for poor, and that is a rush. A rush is also a poor person. Gamul, it doesn't say Gamul Rushim, it says Gamul Dalim. The Chior Rushim, a rush is more poor. How do you say? Is lacking more. The Rushim, Zakukim, the Gamul, a Rushim, that's a person who's truly indigent. What do they call it? It has nothing whatsoever. He needs more than a dal. Like it's known that even though that the level of dal and reish is also called poor. Shneim, both of them are connected to poverty, but a reish, like it says, a reish ain't call. It's a pasuk in, what is it, in it says Shmuel Beit. Shmuel Beit, he has nothing. A reish, where did I get up to here? There's a moment. There it says, what did I do? This is terrible. Oh, it says that even a Jew, when he's found dal, nevertheless, a dal is a difference from a reish. A reish is a person that's poor, but the letter dal has a dalid. We said gimel dalim. Where did I get up to over here? Here we go. Oh, what's this? No. I skipped over. I'm sorry. God, that's the problem with the scrolling down. Okay. Oh, here it is. Yeah. The dal. Okay. So a reish, a poor person. That's what's called dali dalos. That's called the poorest of the poor. That's even below. So why does it say gimel dalit? It should say gimel reish, right? God, that's even worse. It says because yesh lomar, we can say the explanation is like this. The difference between dalit and reish, the letter dalit, and the letter reish hints at two types of poverty. The letter dalit has a little point in the back of it. See, a dalit is a line, and then another line that goes almost to the end, but there's a little thing hanging over in the dalit. This is the letters. The reish though is not it's one line that's curved. There's no little thing hanging over. But that the letter dalit has a little oketz, a little point that goes out from the back of it. That this point shows on bittul. Shemakashers is a makabel that attaches the person who's receiving to the one who's giving. And there's a dalid is a poor person that still has hope. And a reish is a poor person that he can't receive anything. He has got no hope. Ubavoda, this little point, this is the point of Judaism, this little point in the back of the dalid that is in every single Jew. No matter what situation he's in, nevertheless, there's this little point of hope that attaches him to the gimel, which is before, to the giver, which is from above. We can say that this idea of gomel dalim, of giving to the poor, afilu kafish Yehudi, is even when a Jew is found in the lowest situation that he's a dal, nevertheless, there's a little point in the dalid. He's not a reish. He's got a little point behind, and that it's still whole, it's still there. And where did he get this little point in the back? That's what we got in Mount Sinai. That a Jew, no matter what situation he's in, nevertheless, he knows that there's God, and he knows that God wants to give to him. Like we said before, at Mount Sinai, the highest of the highs came down to the lowest of the lows. Suddenly, everybody felt, when God appeared on Mount Sinai, suddenly everybody realized, wow, before this, I was poor. I was empty. I had nothing. When God revealed himself on Mount Sinai, suddenly they realized what true, how do you say, riches is. That God chose us, and the Jewish people can neshama begufim, bodies and souls below. And from then on, the Jewish people, it's not relevant that a Jew should be a reish, should be totally poor, impoverished, with no hope whatsoever. It's not possible. Therefore, it's called gimel dalim. It has to be the dalid, that there's always this little point of hope in the back of the poor person. Kalomar. In other words, gam kodem matan Torah, even before the giving of the Torah, there was godliness in the world. There was the splitting of the sea. God took the Jews out of Egypt. But then it was in a way of gamul roshim, that the lower worlds, they remained like they were before, which is not the case in Matan Torah. Nifala in the gamul dalim, joining of the upper worlds and the lower worlds. Yesh Lomar, we can see, Shazeh Rumas, I'm laughing because, okay, there's some people that no matter how much you give them, they're never grateful. And they always remain poor. No matter what, they'll be poor. You give them money, they remain angry. There's all these big, rich people that commit suicide, right? The actors and singers and things, they've got millions and millions in the bank, and it's not good for them. They're always poor. They're always empty. They're always running on empty. They're angry at everybody, and they're depressed all over, and they're addictive, and they're this. They're always running on empty. That's called a reish, a poor person. But he's totally poor. No matter what he's got, he's poor. A dalid is a person that even really, when he really does have nothing, right? Everything has been taken from him, but nevertheless, he still has hope. And that hope is what attaches him to something that's above him. The Yesh Lomar, we can say that this hints at the letter, that the word gar, gimel, given to a reish. Reish, we said, is ultimately poor. That's the first level of gomel Russian, gimel, giving to poor people. Kodem Matan Torah, Moshe said, ger ha'iti beretz nachriya. Moshe said, before giving the Torah, I was like a ger. What's a ger mean? He's totally poor. He has no rak ger, like he was a stranger. But he was in a strange place, stranger in a strange land, like it says. Which is, that was before the giving of the Torah. But after the giving of the Torah, lo shayach kol hametzius v'hayiti be'eretz nachriya. Afterwards, it says that he was in a strange land, that he would be attached in any way to the land, though a strange desires, God forbid, attached to the land so much that he thought that that's all there is the land. That's called ultimately poor, poorest of the poor, reish. Like the Rambam says, Shiratzona Amiti Shal Yehudi, the true desire of a Jew is to do what God wants. Rotzehu lasot kol mitzvot. Every Jew wants to do all of the commandments and to keep far away from any sins. That's the true will of a Jew. Ki yesh etzlo nakuda, because he's got this little point of Judaism behind him, this connection to the infinite. The point which is behind the Daled, it's always complete. What can we learn from this? We can learn from this that every Jew is gold, and every Jew wants to spread around to the world that every non-Jew that connects himself to what happened at Mount Sinai, namely the 7 Noahide commandments, that he's also gold, and that there's hope for the world. The world is essentially, it's good. Every human being is essentially good. Every human being is made in the image of God. And our job is to reveal this. In order to reveal it, though, you have to have that little, the world is tremendously poor. You have to have this little point in the end of the dial, a little bit of hope, a little bit of connection to the infinite. And this opens up the door that everybody can receive this amazing miracles. And the proof of it is Purim. The holiday of Purim, the Jews opened themselves up totally. They had no hope whatsoever. Everyone was against them, except God. And because of Mordechai themselves, they weren't against themselves. And because of that, we had the big miracle, and the result of that is true happiness. As we'll learn more, God willing, tomorrow. Now let's do the Yom Yom. 1 second. Here we go. 1 second.